Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about how LTCN is still in the buy zone. And we're going to cover all of the Grayscale trusts today, at least the ones that we were able to find. If we're missing any, let us know. With that being said, let's get it. So we're going to cover the top dog here first, which is LTCN. So one quick look at the charts, as you guys can see, you notice this tweezer, kind of triple tweezer bottom we got going on here. So notice the last time that we had one of these was right here. Okay. I failed to mention this before, but I just noticed it as I was setting this up. So as you guys can see, we had this double tweezer bottom here, which I've told you guys before is extremely bullish. And look at what we had after that move happened. We had a huge, man, this thing is really huge. I can't even measure it. It's so big. So we had this massive, absolutely monstrous 98% move up in the following 2 to 3 weeks after that tweezer bottom showed itself on the weekly time frame. Okay, then we had the tweezer top, then we dumped. Now we have a tweezer bottom here. Very similar thing, except this one is red to green instead of green to red. I'm not going to say that the trend is heading down because it's not actually heading down. It would need to get below the support to do so. It was heading up here, but you guys can see these massive wicks we have down here. So kind of what I'm expecting. This is not a prediction. I don't know for sure if this is going to happen or not, but I do suspect that there's a possibility that this candle right here might end green and be higher than this one right here. If that happens, there's a very strong likelihood we're heading back to this support zone up here, or resistance zone up here. So I've don't think I've ever seen a triple tweezer bottom like this. This is interesting, but if it does end up higher than the previous close of the weekly, that would be very bullish. As you guys can see, we're sitting on the EMAs here. So support zone between 680 to 790. The EMAs, you guys can see the prices here, 780, $9, and we got to get back above this yellow one, which is roughly about 1080 a share, and then resistance between 13 to $15. If we get above that, we'll talk about that at that point in time. But still looking bullish on the MACD and the RSI. Nothing's really changed there. So hzen, this one's kind of a doozy, really odd looking structure here. So it looks like it's kind of getting stuck between basically the EMAs and resistance up here, this white line you guys can see we have drawn. Until we get a confirmation one way or another, we're not really going to know which direction this is headed. The RSI and the MACD are still bullish. I would say your most relevant support is going to be between $1.25 to roughly about $1.58. And your resistance is basically going to be all the way up here at $1.96. So now moving on to bchg. Bchg is actually also having a tweezer bottom here as well. As you guys know, we have bchg now over hzen. It does not mean we're not going to buy hzen. We just decided we wanted to buy into bchg at this time. So we will be buying some hzen in the future before Bitcoin takes off. But I would say current support right now is between 240 to roughly about 290 a share. I still think even at 350 a share, that would be a good price to buy in at. Your most relevant resistance is going to be between 380 to 415 a share. So if we measure that from, let's say you get it at the bottom here, up to the top of this resistance, you're talking about up to potentially 86%. And if you were to buy it now, up to the top of this resistance, still pretty good return. You get about 28%. So if you put $1,000 in, you get $280 in profit. It's not bad. So here's a gxlm. I know that this is one that some people are very interested in. As I've stated before, I would rather buy the actual stellar lumens because I think that's cheap in comparison to this. Still in this rising wedge pattern, it looks like we're touching it. Whether we're going to bounce or drop below it, we'll just have to wait and see. The MACD is still bullish, but heading down. The RSI is just sitting above the break-even zone, as you can see here, so it's slightly in bull territory. Your major support is going to be between 414 to roughly about 1150 a share. That would be the macro support. So the most current support is between basically 23.15 all the way up to 25.60. Me personally, I would not be buying this because if I were to buy it here and then it breaks down, and that's a pretty substantial drop. So if it was me, I would just wait for the drop. I mean, you could maybe DCA in. That way, if it heads higher, at least you have some skin in the game and maybe could take profit on the way up. Not financial advice, but I wouldn't be putting a lot of money in at this particular structure right here. That's just my opinion, of course. And then your resistance is obviously the top of this rising wedge, so about 36%. From current levels to, see if I can actually get this, from current levels to basically about the top of that zone, you're going to be looking roughly around 30% in profit. So ethe, I would say this one's looking pretty bullish, but again, we'll show you the crypto markets in a second. They are dumping, but it looks like we might have a death cross on the MACD here. We still have this bearish divergence, which it looks like is just now starting to play out. So RSI moving down, price moving up, that's known as divergence. We did have this huge drop. That is dropping because the crypto market as a whole is dropping. So pretty much your most relevant support is going to be between roughly about 1380 a share to, I would say, about 1650 a share would be the most relevant support. And then your obviously resistance zone between 2560 to 29. We'll just measure that real quick and see how much money you could make. So from the current place, if you were to get in now and hold till this resistance, you're looking at roughly about a 45 to a 67% gain. But keep in mind, if this thing drops down to the bottom of the EMAs here, that's about a 20% drop. I'm not saying it's going to go below the EMAs. The structure actually looks really, really bullish still, even with the sell-off. But you could be taking a look at as much as 72 to 86% downside. I don't think it's going to go that low, but I mean, maybe save a black swan event, it could, but I just don't see that happening. So here's the ETH Classic. You guys can see we kind of had this sell-off here, what looks like a potential Wyckoff. So we kept trying to tap into that resistance, got rejected, and then we got slammed back down to the downside. So very similar here. Bearish divergence, RSI moving down, price moving up. We're about to get a death cross on the MACD, so prices could be heading lower. Your macro supports between 285 to $5, and the current support on EMAs roughly about $8.90 a share to $10 a share, pretty much where it's at right now. So if you bought in right now and it went up to resistance, you'd make between 27 to 56% on your position, assuming that you just went all in right now. Of course, you can do it however you want to. If you got in at the red EMA, 48 to potentially as much as 80%. And then for the drop from here to the red EMA, you're looking at roughly about 15% or so. Zcash, I would say this one still looks like a pretty cheap buy if you ask me. I mean, it's still sitting pretty much almost right exactly at the bottom, absolute bottom support zone. So bottom support between 144 to 176. Resistance between 271 to 402. Again, very similar to the previous chart we looked at. You guys can see that sellers came in here and really were trying to sell this thing off, and it looks like they succeeded, at least in the short term. So we got this weird formation going on the RSI where we had like a death cross and a golden cross and a death cross. That's pretty odd. But I would say overall pretty neutral on this position. Potential MACD death cross here. I would say now potentially could be a good time to buy in. Of course, it could go lower. I mean, it's possible, but if you just DCA your way down, it's not going to be that bad. Of course, if you put everything in right now and this thing goes lower, then obviously that would not be good. Kind of use your own strategy on this one. But if you were to measure from where it is now to resistance, it's anywhere from roughly about 21% up to as much as 80%. I would say that's pretty good. GSOL still looking very bullish, although we did get sold off from the zone. That's the reason why we draw these zones in, because there's a potential that it could act as future resistance or support. This thing, again, is massively overbought. I would not touch this with a 10-foot pole, me personally, nor would I touch Solana, because I think it's pretty expensive right now. There is better deals in the market, but your support's pretty much going to be between roughly about $84 to, I would say, 104 would be roughly a good starting point. Mana, this one's quite interesting. So I wouldn't really say this is expensive, but it is sitting right at resistance. So me personally, I would not be buying this. Not nearly as overbought as the gsol trust, but still kind of would make me hesitating. I would rather buy LTCN at current prices than try to buy this and then get dumped on. So basically, if you bought all in now, you could be potentially looking at, let's say it gets to this red EMA, 40% drop, all the way down to support, roughly a 77 to 87% drop. I'm not saying it's going to go that low, but it's always a possibility in crypto. Remember, crypto is very volatile. So your most relevant supports are going to be between 920 to, I would say, in my opinion, I wouldn't be buying until it gets to this blue EMA, so about 1186. So from the bottom, if you were to get in here at the red EMA to resistance, roughly about 83 to 110%, I'd say that's pretty good. Gbat, this is the basic attention token, pretty overextended here. I really honestly am not sure what to make of this formation here. So you have all these wick rejections on the bottom, which is buyer support, but then again, it looks like it's wanting to head down. So kind of neutral on this chart. It looks, just my opinion, but it looks a little expensive if you ask me. So, and then we have this bearish divergence as well, RSI moving down, price moving up. But your most relevant support is going to be between, I would say, 445 a share to probably 522. I personally would wait for it to get in this zone if it was me. So if you got in this zone, you could be taking a look at potentially anything from 56% all the way up to as much as 120%. So here's the Chainlink one. Chainlink is looking a lot less expensive than it was, but me personally, I still would not be buying this right here. Reason being is because I just think it's really expensive. I mean, the bottom is about 6 something a share to $10 a share. It's currently at $41, and the peak is at $86. So I would be looking to pick it up somewhere between, I would say, probably 28 to maybe the bottom of this wick, so about 34 bucks a share or so. So if you were to get in at these red EMAs up to the current support zone, which I think is about to become resistance, you'd be taking a look at 56%. And if you got it all the way to the top here, if we can actually measure this out, you guys can see it's basically 2x. So this one, oh my God, just look at this. This is absolutely ridiculous. So this is what it could be like in crypto when the bull run takes off. So the RSI is overbought. You can see the slight shade of green there that indicates overbought. Last time we saw this on this particular trust, we had a pretty large sell-off. Not financial advice, guys, but if I was in this position right now, like if I had bought anywhere in this area down here in these EMAs and it was all the way up here, I would sell immediately because there's a pretty good chance it could sell off. When it's going to happen exactly, I don't know, but that is pretty parabolic looking. So I'm just going to show you guys. So this thing is a massive 90% above the top EMA. Okay, the top EMA is the shortest time frame EMA. So that's pretty heavily overextended. That's just my opinion. You guys can do what you want. If you don't want to sell, that, you know, that's on you. But I would not even touch this at all unless it got back to probably the support here between 36 to 42. Now, if it does that, you could be taking a look at potentially as much as a 216% gain. Let's just do the inverse here. If you got in here and it dropped back down to support, you're taking a look at roughly about a 66% cut on your investments. So enter at your own risk. It's up to you guys. So here's the live peer one. It looks like we're about to sell off into this red EMA. So I'm just going to say the red EMA is at support. So ideally support roughly around 10 bucks. Let's say you got in there and it goes up to the top of this current support 54%, and then you would get looks like roughly about a 2x on your money all the way to the top. So before I close this video out, I want to do a quick comparison between the two on the Filecoin Trust and Filecoin itself. Just so you all know, we do actually have the actual Filecoin. We do not have any of the Grayscale Filecoin Trust. Where is it? So yeah, as you guys can see, Bitcoin and a lot of the altcoins have pulled back quite a bit. But if we do a side-by-side comparison, in my personal opinion, we already have quite a bit of money invested into Filecoin, and we would still be willing to buy Filecoin itself over the Filecoin Grayscale Trust, because I think that the Filecoin Grayscale Trust is just way too expensive right now. If you guys take a look at a bird's eye view of these charts, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So you guys can see that this is literally sitting at all-time highs, and Filecoin itself is literally sitting at all-time lows. So anyways, with that being said, this is the Grayscale Trusts video for the week. We covered LTCN. We still think LTCN is going to move up. It looks very bullish in my opinion. So hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.